So, welcome, Joe. Thank you so much for being part of this YouTube series around child development. I think anyone listening is going to find this really interesting, and because it's also a thing that a lot of parents get involved in is going swimming or bringing their babies to baby sensory or baby swimming classes. So, Joe, your background is aqua sensory, which is, I think, fascinating, and I love listening to you. So, even if you want to just introduce yourself a little bit and a little bit around your business and your background, will be great.
Yeah, sure. So I've been a swimming teacher for so many years, but I did notice, about over 10 years ago, that children's development was actually changing. And also it was twofold. It coincided with almost an explosion of baby classes.
Mm,
There was baby sensory, baby music, baby signing. There was so much choice for parents.
mm,
But also, sometimes it was a different type of play that children were starting to be introduced, a lot more screens and linear and plastic. So there was a lot of changes, and I was educating my parents and empowering them about the benefits of the pool, because the
mm,
pool and the water is the most naturally multi-sensory environment.
mm,
So we started to create almost like a parent education program, and to really help our parents, not just with the swim side, but
mm,
really the why side to their baby's
mm.
development, and really giving them top tips that they can be not only doing in the water, but will really help that baby's development at home as well. And that's how Aqua Sensory started. 2013 we created it, and we just love helping and supporting parents and also swim professionals as well.
Yeah, and I think that's why I love chatting to you as well, Joe, because we kind of like our ethos a little bit around that kind of parent empowerment and kind of helping them, I suppose, be the expert in their own child's development, but also how you can explore that play and sensory and natural environments, including water. And I suppose the first kind of sensory experience that kids will have is at home, and sensory is everywhere. Parents will say, oh, we do loads of sensory. We have loads of sensory toys at home and we do different bits. But what makes it different actually bringing a baby to one of your classes or one of the baby aqua groups rather than in comparison to just doing, let's say, bath time or something at home?
Sure. Well, it's structured in a way that we have sensory toys that is very appropriate to the baby's development,
Mm,
but also we're allowing the babies to really unfold and explore in their own way. So it's very, very baby led. And sometimes that's really doesn't always come naturally in the
mm,
pool. We hold babies and we go at our pace, we walk through the water. And so what we're actually helping parents is to really see the pool and the water from a baby's point of view, their
mm.
perspective, and it's really just slowing it down and layering up the sensory experiences. So for baby, it doesn't just become another experience. They just have to do it. It's a project. It's a tick list for parent. It becomes a very, very meaningful
Mm.
for baby and parent together, and inputs for baby's development.
And I think that's what's lovely about some of the baby groups. And I know I'm actually trained in infant massage, but when you're in those baby group positions, separate to parents just doing it themselves, bringing them to the pool, you're really kind of guiding the process. But it really is that relationship between baby and parent and how you can use those environments. So I think it's lovely with the pool that sometimes parents may be a little bit nervous of bringing their baby to the pool and they might delay it and say, we'll do that when they're a little bit older. But actually being able to guide them and be confident in having their baby in the pool and how you can use the pool for their development is lovely. So I suppose the first experience that babies would have with water is bath time at home, with parents. So, is there anything that I suppose parents can do to support bath time and kind of, I suppose, support the playfulness of water and bath time rather than just seeing it as, okay, we'll get bath time done and get them out? Are there things that parents can do at home, Joe?
Yeah, definitely. We don't want to just see it as just another, process. Really, we want
Mm,
um, parent and baby to really enjoy that experience, and
mm,
it the experience to be really loving as well.
Mm,
So first of all, water is a baby's natural home, of course.
mm,
And we're really bringing them back to home when we're reintroducing them into the bath, into the water. But we want to be doing it in a very sensory, sensitive
mm,
way. So thinking carefully about the environment,
mm,
the water temperature, the air temperature, having everything ready. But
mm,
also, a lot of parents think about bath time maybe just before bedtime at the
mm,
end of the day.
mm,
Now, for some babies, that's great.
mm.
But for other babies, they've had a lot of sensory experiences. I always say to my parents, babies are little sensory sponges. They're literally soaking up all these sensations
Mm,
throughout the day. And their little sponge, and quite often I use props in the pool. So that little baby
lovely.
sponge, yeah, it's
Mm,
just really, really too full. So how's their baby state? Are they calm and alert? That's perfect for baby bath time.
mm,
So maybe, we look at different times of the day and we're not just fixed on a particular point. So that's my first top tip,
mm,
to really think about the time of day and think about the preparation
mm,
around baby bath time, not just what you need, what baby needs. And also checking into yourself as
mm,
well. So taking that nice deep breath in, so
mm,
we're nice and relaxed
mhm.
and baby's nice and relaxed. And you mentioned baby massage, and we do bring some principles into the pool because quite often our hands are a bit chilly, aren't they? And
Yeah.
we're wrapping baby in that beautiful permission cue where we're warming up our hands and we say, "You ready, baby? We're going to have a bath." So again, we're getting that beautiful
Mm,
communication, permission and respect. And we can then take these principles, what we've learned at home,
mm,
and the transition from the bath to the pool is just so much
mm,
smoother then as well.
mhm. I think that's really interesting you saying that, Joe, at the end of the day, because I think what happens is when it comes to like routines, especially around bedtime, a lot of the advice would be like, keep it the same, have your bath time. But then, particularly when I work with children that may have some sensory processing difficulties, or maybe they're just like really in an alert state near the evening, bath time can be a source of actually getting them even more alert. They love splashing and having fun. And so parents are like, I don't know if it works to wind them down. And exactly as you said, there could be a time in the day that suits parents as well. They're like, oh, we're so relaxed at that time. It would be lovely to do it in the morning. So it is that one fit doesn't suit every baby. And to make sure that parents use their instinct around bath time as well and go, okay, I'm much more relaxed at this time of the day. So is my baby. This is a lovely time for us to do it. And we can do all that prepping beforehand and afterwards, lovely massage afterwards. So I totally agree. Sometimes Joe bath time can kind of be like, oh, I better do it now when I'm supposed to do it at night time. But maybe that's not the right fit.
Yeah, we don't
Um,
have to. We can maybe just do a top and tail wash, and again, we're just tuning in to baby's needs and cues. And you talked about massage there, and I think if we think about a really familiar smell that
mm,
baby's really enjoying with their regular routines,
mm,
what we can do. So the sense of smell is really interesting.
mm,
It's the only sense that goes straight through to the emotional part of the brain. All the other senses is much lower down and has to process in a different way, whereas our sense of smell is whoop, it's
mm,
straight there. But that's great because we could use maybe the smell as an emotional anchor and
mm.
bring baby's favorite smell into the changing room. So again,
Great
we're
idea.
linking the pool to the home environment,
Mm,
and baby remembers. It's creating emotional memory maps of like, wow, yeah, this feels, even though it's so new, the swimming pool,
mm,
this is new, I remember this, oh, I remember that smell. So there's something that's familiar, so we can really again think about baby sensory experiences when we're
mm.
introducing pool.
And you've kind of touched on that there, Joe, the transition, because that's actually really important. I always say that with something new, the preparation is so important. So I love the idea of like having something that is similar to the routine at home. So maybe when they come out of the pool, they do their little bit of, massage with their lovely smell. Are there other things that parents could think about when they're doing that initial, let's say they're going to their initial, baby swimming group, or they're going to the pool for the first time? What are some things that parents could think about before doing that?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we've got to remember it's not only new for baby, but it's new for
Mm,
ourselves too. So I think being armed with all the information.
mm,
So just very simple information, about parking and how to get there and what you need. Every pool is very different. So having the information that is going to almost set you up for success or go into the pool is great, and
mm,
walking through. So then it doesn't feel like your first experience is so new, and that really just help, because when things are new, we can also ourselves be on a little bit more high alert, can't we? And baby has a magic way of mirroring and picking up. So anything that we can do to create a relaxed environment for us first will really help baby.
mm,
To prep our swim bag and to take some extras. So we always think about what baby needs, but sometimes it's what we need as well as parents.
mm,
So a nice warm a dressing gown for after, and some food, not only for baby, but for us as well. So again, we're working in partnership and
mm,
really thinking about, it's the small things, isn't it, that really mean a lot. So we're not just rushing into the experience, really.
No, yeah, exactly. And thinking about as well your own needs, like you
Mm,
said, because like if you're hungry, you're going to be more irritable as well. And if you're tired, and I think especially for parents of babies that might be a little bit defensive or avoidant of new experiences, it's lovely to put a lot of work into that preparation. So even I would say to parents to put the swimsuit on them going into the bath at home for a little amount of time to see, do they enjoy wearing that? And I know when we were chatting before, Joe, you made a really good point around, sometimes the babies will come in really tight little outfits.
yeah, I've
Yeah,
got baby Bob here. So this is a really typical sort of just a swim short. And for a
yeah.
lot of babies, this is actually all they need. Because
Mm,
actually they'll regulate from that skin to skin.
mm,
And quite often parents will just buy, as you say, those
mm,
little close little wetsuits. Now for some babies, they might need that extra stimulus, that protection,
mm,
that cushion. But for a lot of others, they're those babies that kick off the covers. They love
mm,
to be free. So from a very early age, we are shaping a
mm,
baby's sensory world. So it's really good to tune in to babies' sensory preferences, particularly their tactile preferences.
mm,
It's one of the baseline for our sensory world for babies. But actually, we're doing so much to input those
mm,
experiences. So just to think carefully about the different layers
mm.
and the experiences for babies, definitely.
Exactly. And do they enjoy, splashing in the bath, or are they a child that kind of withdraws from that? So how you can know those little cues about your baby before you go into the pool so that their first experience is positive, even if that needs to be a shorter session. And that's always, you always want to end on a positive high for kids, or else they kind of develop kind of nervousness. And also the parents, like you said, can be a little bit more anxious returning. In terms of like obviously as OTs, Joe, we do so much, I suppose, sensory based work
Mhm.
on in the clinic, in people's homes. But I suppose now you are seeing a little bit more of OTs being involved in different natural environments like care farms or different areas. In terms of the swimming pool, what kind of sensory based activities do you kind of integrate in? Maybe that parents don't even realize that they're doing kind of in the pool.
Sure. I'll give you sort of a few of our favourites, because
Yeah.
you're completely right that actually we don't realise sometimes we know the swim benefits, but not
Mm,
necessarily the developmental benefits.
mhm,
So tummy time is
mhm,
always being talked about. Now, for some little babies, they are really just developing, aren't they, their neck and their head
mhm,
control. So it's very just short and often. Now in the pool, it's really special because the water is giving that real cushion and that buoyancy.
mm,
So we just support gently baby our hands, and this is a perfect tummy time position. So if baby feels like they're not enjoying as much on dry land. In the pool, the water, that's a beautiful tummy time position. And this is just a little front hold, or we have flat hands, which is a surf. So babies really having a beautiful stroke in their vision, their neck, their shoulders, their cores. It's amazing. It's an all over body experience. So that's a top tip for tummy time. I would say to parents to really think about the choice of colours.
Yeah.
Naturally, blues is going to really fade into the water, and we quite often forget that our baby's sense of vision is still developing. When they're born, their world is blurry, and it's not until their age of 2 that they're getting that true sense of full vision. So around about sort of 3 to 4 months, we're working on what we call tracking and splashing in the pool. So I love toys that have got eyes, and I think they're really great that then baby can really see, and we're really sort of thinking about their eyes.
Yeah.
But what we don't want to do is we don't want to move them too quickly, and it's quite often that we have toys that sometimes do 2 things as well. This one makes a noise and it's got eyes and it does all sorts, but sometimes that can be too much for our little babies. So to really think, first of all, of just so the baby's got that focus, that eye focus, and we call it almost like caterpillars. So we want to just do baby's eye line very, very slowly, focusing first and then very slow on their eye line, so they've got that focus and that tracking. We can also do it with our hands. So babies love our faces and they love watching us. So it's really easy to also get baby's attention and just to splash on by their eyes, and they can just watch that, and to pause and to rest. And the important thing with sensory input is to repeat. So we always say to our parents, repeat and pause, watch baby, and just wonder if they're still curious or if they need more, and repeat again. So we use this lovely expression. We have parent language, what we call wait, watch, and wonder. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to just stop the stimuli and the visual input for our babies that are really active and wanting more. So for babies where you can see are just that little bit further in their development, then they love maybe just zooming in and out, and this will really work on their depth perception. Ooh.
Lovely.
So you can really do simple activities, and again, building it up each week. So what happens is that parents really understand not only baby's progress in terms of swimming, but they're really looking at what baby is and how far they're developing as well, which is just really nice. So that's tummy time, that's visual input. And the other one that parents might not realise is the vestibular system. So that's our movement system. And quite often in the pool, it can be challenged. So that's great. But for our sensitive babies, sometimes it's just too much. So let's get babies almost like as a compass, a central axis, first of all. So one hand on bottom and using yourself as a base. So that's a really nice balanced position, first of all. And then when they're stable, instead of bouncing up and down, because again, this can be too much input to start with, we just want to hold them and we just want to rock forward and back. So we're working on one plane to start with, and we wait, we watch, and we wonder how baby's responding. And then if baby needs more, we can go side to side. But for some babies, they're seeking. They're so active, they want more. So we're adding in that whoosh, and we're adding in that more dynamic movement. So we're able to sort of add in layers and take away layers depending on what babies need. So we're really responding to their sensory needs all the time in the pool, because some babies aren't necessarily developing on the same track. So we don't want to withdraw the sensory stimuli.
Exactly.
We don't want to be the avoidance, really.
You talked there, I suppose, like, Joe, when you're running any baby groups, especially baby swimming groups, you're kind of in a privileged position because you're seeing babies as well at that very beginning, that real early intervention, area. I suppose you're always like watching for developmental markers and stages because of your experience. Are there little prompts that you do give parents to kind of be in tune with those developmental stages during the swimming?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's more for the parents come to us with their parental concerns. So because we're always giving our parents the why, and you can naturally be in a position to see other babies. So what we don't do is we don't want to be using our baby swim class and our aqua sensory as a diagnostics tool, but definitely to support parents, because they're actually feeling their babies all the time. And I always say to my parents, when have you got two hands, no distractions, on baby in a skin to skin environment, little clothes? It rarely happens. It's a really quality, meaningful experience, baby swimming. So they can really feel baby's muscle tone. They can really feel how baby's core is developing. They can see how baby is reacting to water in their face. And for some, I mean, it's very natural to withdraw and to withdraw our face. But once we get used to the water, we shouldn't really mind a little bit of water on our face. So it's really good check-in for parents to say, oh, actually, my little one, on tummy time, actually there's just no strength there, and is there anything I can do? They're not being able to hold onto the bar and monkey at a year old, and not able to pull themselves up at the pool. So this tends to correlate with what's going on at home as well. So it's not just in the pool, but certainly we're working together and we're helping our parents find and seek the right health professional for their needs, if there is any little red flags that they're being aware of.
And as you said there as well, Joe, sometimes there's a lot of information out there around sensory. So I think sometimes parents think if their baby withdraws at all from water, that there could be a sensory difficulty. But a lot of those reactions are also very typical of all babies initially when they experience sensory experiences, that they might withdraw, and that you just need to maybe adapt the way that they're, I suppose, using that environment and experiencing that sensory input. So exactly. And the thing is, I suppose, for parents is, even if they are concerned that there maybe are some developmental delays, by going to the baby swimming class, they are also doing so much even in that one class. They have that engagement and attachment, that skin to skin. They're in a new environment. There's just so many skills you can learn. And even as the child gets older, they can be helping a little bit with drying themselves or getting dressed, or there's just so many opportunities for independence and for sensory exploration and everything. So
I mean, when you think about what babies need to really build their brains so they've got really strong connections, they need that environment, and it's a sensory rich environment. They need meaningful experiences, and they need that relationship. So that's that three-way pronged approach. And I say, where's my little bucket? So I say to parents that, so all babies are born with all the connections that they need, but sometimes actually their connections aren't very strong. They've got these little holes. So what we do is we put them in water and we watch all the sprinkles, and the babies love the sprinkles and the light. And then as they develop, what we're doing with our meaningful experiences and our rich sensory environment is we're actually just creating these connections. So we've got a really strong base. So we talk about from the bottom up. And again, that really helps parents understand that actually we're creating in the pool the strong foundations, because they're going to get sensory all their lives. But what we're doing is we're creating really the firm connections in the pool.
Yeah, and what's lovely as well is, and we kind of talk there about like parents feeling empowered, is like cutting through too much of that kind of lingo therapeutic information. And there is so much information online for parents as well, and I think that's lovely, is that you try and kind of, I suppose, bring it down to that parents level and those lovely everyday experiences, things that they can even do at home in the bath, and different areas like that. Do you also offer some supports to parents outside of that? Do you do like parent support training or handouts for them, Joe, as well?
Sure, I run in our swim centres. We do a lot of parent information, but I've extended that out to other parents, and we've got a free group which is called Aqua Sensory Connections, where our parents can join and get lots and lots of information. So each week we're talking about different topics, and we're introducing simple toys. So some weeks I might sort of say, well, this week how about mirrors, and I'll give them 5 examples what you can be doing with mirrors at home. So yeah, Aquasensory Connections is a really nice parent group where we're helping parents to give them sort of free support.
Lovely. And like the thing is with the swimming pool, which is lovely, is it's accessible for all parents and all kids. It's very inclusive because, lots of, like most of the changing rooms, they have enough space and they're accessible. So like, would most of your groups be very inclusive in terms of having a good variety, I suppose, of children, that some children may have developmental delays, but other children may not. And it's just like a lovely parent kind of support atmosphere as well?
Definitely. I think swimming is one of those activities that's very equal. So, and actually, children can be doing a lot more in
Mm.
the water than they can on dry land if they have, say, motor control or mobility delays. So they find themselves the water very empowering. But what's really nice, it's an inclusive group. So parents are with children of all abilities, because in actual fact in the water they're all developing at different times, so it does feel really inclusive. It's not just a group for children with this delay or this particular need. So we really welcome all children and babies into our groups.
Yeah, and I think it's lovely because then people can access things in their community as well. And it's just a lovely environment to kind of empowering parents. And also it's such an enjoyable experience as well. And so, Joe, would there be any like questions that commonly come up from parents that they would ask you during these groups?
Sometimes one of the questions is, can I just have a taster?
Okay.
Can I just have one lesson? And I do explain to parents that whilst one lesson is perhaps good for yourself just to check out facilities, actually for baby they're not going to be able to actually get the full experience. In actual fact, it takes a number of weeks for sensory experience to habituate and be familiar. So and also sometimes it means that parents don't mean, but they have very quick reactions.
Mm.
And it might be, oh, my baby doesn't like. So what we want to do is to really help that parent and support that parent over a number of weeks. So what we do is we make sure that if babies aren't settling, we look at the whole of their needs,
Mm.
time of day, the different group, perhaps on a different day. So that's a very common question. Can I just have one lesson? What do I take with me? I think we've covered that. And what does baby wear? So
Mm.
again, the little shorts, not necessarily always wrapping them up in those baby wetsuits.
I know.
Because I think if we were in a full wetsuit, we'd be like this, wouldn't we? And that's just like a baby as well. And I think one of the other questions is, when will my baby be swimming? That would be a very common question. So I always say, well, let's have a think about how long it takes baby to walk. So it's
Mm.
taking, or let's see how long it takes a child to ride a bike. It takes a huge amount of repetition, practice. And what we want to be doing is really enjoying the whole process. We
Mm.
want baby to really get that sort of those little magical baby steps, and they progressing really slowly in their own time, in their own way, not necessarily, you know, always focusing on that one outcome. Because as a society, we're very driven, aren't we, to academic success and the when are we going to, and it's those little magical moments. So you talked about parent language, and at the end of each class, we're checking in, we're having a beautiful magical pause, a nice, lovely little close cuddle, and then we're actually thinking about that magical moment of today. So we're really cherishing really those little baby steps to success.
Exactly. Rather than it being like an end product of like the baby needs to be swimming, that's the goal. The goal is actually to create an environment that that baby and that mum or that dad or that caregiver can be together and can learn new developmental skills in the medium of water, you know, rather than it being like they are going to be swimming. There's some babies, you know, as they progress will enjoy the pool and will continue on in swim groups, but it's just, I think that's the thing with the baby groups. It's an opportunity, isn't it, for them to be just together in that medium, whether it's massage or the pool or anything like that. Joe, when we talked a little bit around doing this video, we chatted a little bit around sensory layers, which I thought it was a really interesting way of talking about the swim pool in general. I'm just going to close here, the sun coming in on me. But we talked a little bit around when babies are in the pool, how I suppose you're constantly as a parent trying to read those cues and figure out, is there something I could do here so my baby will be more settled, let's say, or more relaxed in the pool? Or is there something that I could get them more settled if they're very alert and overstimulated in the pool? So we talked a little bit around sensory layers, which I think is really accessible language for parents. And a little bit around like how some babies may need a sensory layer removed and how some babies may need a sensory layer added. So do you want to chat a little bit around sensory layers?
Yeah, sure. So it all goes to babies' personality there and really their sensory preferences, because sensory isn't something that's just literally switched on and off. They're processing all the time. And just like we've got sensory preferences, baby has too. So in actual fact, it's great. We're like little, almost like cue detectives, and it's that cluster of cues that we're looking at rather than actually making those quick snap judgments. Oh, they don't like being on their back, or they don't like this and that. So we're really observing with really kind, curious eyes. But when we think of the pool, it's a very highly stimulating environment. It's multisensory and it's layered. So even just holding baby, if you think about what's going on, they're really thinking about the position and their balance. We have got skin to skin and that tactile touch. They've got their vision. There's so much going on. And that's just being static in one hold. Once we start moving, we've got a huge amount of vestibular input as well. And obviously the water is that cushion of calm. It's that proprioception input. If we start talking to baby, we're adding more layers into their auditory. If we start singing, then that's another dynamic. But also we've got the whole poolscape as well. So for babies that feel a little bit overstimulated, what I would always say to parents is, first of all, let's just pause. We are ourselves the charging point, almost like home. So does baby like to be facing out, or does baby want to make their world smaller, their sensory world smaller? So facing in. And then we're resetting them. We're starting with that pause. And then we can start to add in the sensory layers again, maybe little rocks backwards and forwards, because this is a very calming hold and move. And we're just adding in a little bit more pressure and sensory input. And then we can see, check in. And if baby's doing okay, we can then add in our voice and start talking. And if that's too much, then maybe we just hold and we breathe together. But for most babies, they will really enjoy the eye contact, the talking, knowing you're there, the rocks backwards and forwards. And if you start to see baby really wanting more, of course, turn them round, add in more dynamic movement, and then add in more of the sensory toys. So there's a huge amount what we can be doing with just the water. And what happens sometimes is when babies feel a little bit unsettled, we perhaps go to straight away what I call a sensory prop. So we get almost a distraction toy, a watering can, and we're pouring. But that's just too much, too fast for some of our babies. So as I say, sensory layers we can add in and we can also take away, because we do sometimes forget that touch, our voice, what they're seeing, everything is a layer in the pool. So we're varying their world to what they need.
The thing that's lovely, Joe, that's all very transferable. It's using the same language that we would use in other situations in terms of, reading cues. So taking that pause as the parent and going, okay, they are getting upset or something is, and rather than jumping in with like a distraction or a toy, like you said, which could actually make the situation worse, it is sometimes nice to pause and think, okay, what have I just added? What sensory layer? Let's say you started singing and then they started to fuss. Then it can be an easy way to remove a layer while also providing an extra layer. So just like you said, maybe stopping the singing, but going back to some of that lovely kind of tight touch and keeping them nice and close. So it can be trial and error to see what works, but that's just the best way of doing it. And that relates to other situations in the shopping center. Can I remove a sensory layer here, or can I add one to make my child calm? So any tools that they use in those swim classes with their baby, they will also help in other environments when their baby is fussing or uncomfortable. So it is that whole dance, isn't it, of reading their cues and kind of getting to know each other, because they're their own person with their own sensory preferences, their own personality and temperament. So it is that co-regulation piece between the caregiver and the baby, and that piece is so important, especially when they're younger and as they get older as well. But
Yeah, definitely. And I love that serve and return, that little ping pong.
yeah,
And quite often we explain that with balls. So again, baby is actually serving and pushing it down and splashing, and we're pausing, and then we want to return, and we use this little dance in the pool with balls, which we call ping pong, which is really nice. So again, we're going down to the parents' language that they can really enjoy, that almost like water dance, which is really, really nice.
but yeah, so thank you so much, Jo. I think it's great for parents as well, just even to have the knowledge if they are thinking about doing a baby swim class, and that these are all the benefits. It's not just there as kind of like, oh, here's somewhere you can go with your baby, that there are so many developmental opportunities and also play opportunities within it. But you have some fabulous resources as well. So I'm going to put your website and all those resources underneath the video as well, Joe. So if any parents are listening and want to learn more, connect with you, I'll put all those. But thanks so much for sharing all that information. It was so helpful.
Thank you. No, it's been great. Yes, we've got some free parent downloads. So, for baby's first swim session, and to also help their sensory development in the pool as well. So, yeah, it'd be great to share.